female super thief with tech genius and superpowers? Welcome back to another edition of Drotalks. Dro here. Today we're going to be talking about Forging Hephaestus, written by Drew Hayes and narrated by Amy Landon. So Drew Hayes, no secret, is one of my absolute favorite authors, and Amy Landon brings life to this other super world, not to be confused with superpowers. It is its own distinct world as of right now. So for those of you that don't know, I'm a huge superpowers fan, and this is no exception to the rule. Drew Hayes continues to deliver solid audiobooks, or books in general, with great stories, really well fleshed out worlds, and this is top tier. Hands down, this is a great story and a great time. So for those of you less patient out there, do I recommend, don't I recommend? Boom, boom. I highly recommend this audiobook. It's up there with Superpowers, just as good. You know, Superpowers is a huge novella, 5-part series, 4-part actually, with a standalone novel. And this is just one book. But there's a lot of information in here, so I'm going to do it a little bit different today. And this is going to be Video 1, Episode 1 of Forging Hephaestus. So if you enjoy these short and long audiobook discussions, do me a favor. Hit that like and subscribe, ring the bell to get notified, and share my videos. You know, the more we can communicate the love for audiobooks and books in general, the better the world will be. I truly believe that. So let's do it together and make this world a better place. And at the same time, get some of that good audiobook goodness in our lives. So for those of you that are more patient and still here with me, let's talk about Forging Hephaestus. This story centers around Tori Rivas, who's an all-around multi-talented individual who decides to not live within the norms of society. She's genius level individual, but just because she can't fit in with the rules of society, she finds herself a thief, a super thief at that. And although her skills are way up there, she does find herself trapped by the guild of supervillains as she is trying to break in and steal some tech to finish her version of an Iron Man suit. Even though Tori Rivas lives in a world where people do have superpowers, she herself has superpowers. They're fire-based, they're very awesome, but for whatever reason, she likes to lean on her tech prowess, and she really envisions herself being a tech genius with a tech suit of armor, and that's how she plans to leave her imprint in the world. So as she's caught by the Super Guild, they give her two choices. You know, die or join them. But joining them is not as easy as you would think. It's not just like, I'm in, and then you're in. There's an actual school, an actual process of this. And even though the villains themselves live outside of the common rules and they live outside of the norms, they themselves are very structured. And Tori, you know, she can't fit within anyone's norms, so she's having trouble. They want her to exploit her fire powers, and she's like, I don't know, I'm a tech genius. What? You don't know me. You don't know who I am. So she don't even fit within those norms. And as she goes through this interview process into this indoctrination in this guild, we quickly find out that she is a loose cannon. You know, these supervillains really see a lot of potential in her. But even though, again, they're supervillains, they live outside the norms, they play by their own rules, no man keeping these guys and girls down, they still need some sort of sense of order. And they do have a clear line of morality, which is a very good point in this book, because it really does allow you to get behind these villains, really support them. You might not agree with all their mindsets, but you can at least have that fundamental morality base where you say, you know with absolute certainty that there's none of those really despicable type of inhumane moral acts being committed, because that's part of the vetting process. And if you fail that, well, you no longer exist. Not only are you not worthy of their organization, you're actually not worthy to be alive. And being that they're supervillains, they do not shy away from taking someone's life. And this is no exception. So Tori passed that round, thankfully for us, because she is a fantastic character. And as she is a loose cannon, they give her a mentor who is everyone thinks he's dead, but he's a very infamous supervillain. And they try to develop this relationship together. This is where it becomes like a buddy cop type dynamic. You know, she has to get an alias. She has to have a day job, such as her mentor does. You know, she interacts with his life. He's a separated father. You know, he has an ex-wife. They have kids. A lot of that is kind of hushed in secrecy and all this and that. Don't want to ruin that. No spoilers here. But she does have to kind of fit into that life and that framework. And that building of that relationship, be it very rocky, is awesome. What is also very awesome is the ingenuity of Tori. She continues to find herself in these predicaments, and she is very hesitant to use her fire powers to get outside of these predicaments. So it's really her ingenuity that gets her out of most of them. And as the story progresses, she does start to understand and embrace her fire powers. And that conclusion there is very, very well done. Very fantastic. What really sets this story apart and what really brings it to life is the world itself. The world building that's done here. Again, Drew Hayes is fantastic at this element. He really brings all these characters in. He really fleshes them out. The heroes, they are heroes, but they are basically very rigid. And you can understand why these, what we're calling villains, do not want to exist within their set of rules. The heroes do, for the most part, are more Hollywood type. They're as much there to protect as they are to gain favor in the world, which has its own drawbacks. You can think of it as consumerism at its worst, infiltrating this what could be a very good superhero organization, as we have seen in Superpowers. So this is a completely different world, unrelated. There's a lot of really key elements on this, some relationships that Tori touches on and expands on. And in part 2 of this video, I'm going to talk about a couple of them. It's a large listen, not as large as Superpowers, but in its own right, it is large. And there's a lot of key elements to this. One of the key elements is a supervillain that he's so morally corrupt that the guild don't accept him, but no one can control him because he's so powerful. The heroes can't control him, the villains can't control him, and they really treat this individual more like an act of nature. When he strikes, he destroys entire cities or massacres individuals, but no one can control him. And this individual can leap between various dimensions of the multiverse in this particular story. He can see all these outcomes. And one thing he is very fascinated with this particular reality is because Tori Rivas survives in a situation where in almost every other reality she didn't survive, as well as her mentor, who survives in various realities where he didn't survive. So he's very curious in this reality because these two individuals are alive at the same time. And in every other reality, it's either one or the other, and those realities end in pretty dismal type ways. So he's very interested and he keeps poking around here, but no one can control him. So this is just, again, one of those elements, a lot of these little mysteries that are tied in that are really well done, and we'll continue talking about in my second follow-up video to this. Final thing I really want to talk that I really liked about this is the narration is on point. Amy Landon did a fantastic job. This is very complex, a lot of characters, a lot of world building. Never did I get confused between the characters. She did all the males very well. She did the females very well. She gave them all very distinct personalities. I knew who was on stage by just her take on that personal character. And the powers themselves, I know I said just one more thing, but the powers themselves, Drew Hayes continues to be very creative with how he develops powers, and it's very awesome to just see all these new types of powers that you would never think about. There's someone here that has a power about catchphrases. So if she gives you a catchphrase, guess what? She say, "Liar, liar, pants on fire." Your pants are set on fire. I'll leave it at that. So, have you listened to Forging Hephaestus? What did you think about it? Did you like it as much as I did? And in the next video, if you have listened to it, what would you like to talk about more? Let me know. Comment below. As always, this has been Drotalks. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. Ring that bell to get notified. And we'll see you next time.